about challenging the status quo and how people approach building a home.
Yeah.
So I think we can have a big conversation about that, because the status quo in Sudan, I think, is about building the next big house, bigger than my neighbors, with
Yes.
as much amount of concrete as possible, as many floors as possible, at any cost possible. So I personally want to talk about what is that in terms of our society? What are we trying to achieve there? And how inhibiting is that? And I'm constantly thinking about, in the UK, for instance, you go to university as a young person, just talking in the UK, and it could be replicated in other places. You go to university, you get into the professional ladder. The first thing you want to do is get into the mortgage ladder so that you can buy your first home. You start small and you start building. In Sudan, I think that is missing. I don't think as a young person, a young professional or young graduate, you can start thinking about building that small home and what that might look like. And maybe that's why people just try to build as big as possible to fit as many families as possible in. And then there are other implications. So I'll let you give me your perspective first.
Well, I'm not aware that the trend is to big a really big house. I know people want that because they still living in the area where I want all my family to come in and all of them to come and stay all Friday from morning to night. And from my perspective here, the bigger is it big home in terms of you wanting to connect with people and create this connection and salat al-rahim and that kind of thing. Beautiful. It does not have to be reflected on the actual brick and mortar. The house can be really simple. The garden can be big in Sudan, if that's what you want. If you want to bring in a concrete structure with lots of styles and open glass ceilings, that's basically an ego thing. It's you wanting to stand out, or you wanting to feel good, like going to buy maybe a Gucci bag or something. But that just has, it's, in my opinion, I don't think that's the best way to go around. If you have the money and the budget, great, build something huge. But I don't know how that will serve beyond. You can have a big house if you can afford it, beautiful. But I really think the impact on and even the sustainability footprint or the carbon footprint for that needs to be considered.
Yeah. And I think, and you raised a couple of times about the maintenance of a home. So yes, we build these beautiful homes, and then it's very difficult to maintain them because the material is missing. The standards, I think we've got to talk about standards. The standards and the monitoring of standards, I feel that is kind of been overlooked. I was talking to my sister, who's an architect, and at some point she was in Sudan, and she said, believe it or not, the standards exist, and to the spec that was left after the colonization. So the spec is to British standards in a lot of way when you look at it, but we don't apply these things. We don't apply standards. So then you have a deterioration of processes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. So this is what I'm thinking. At this point now, I, for instance, if given the choice, would love to have a house made of red brick and as simple as possible, which means the maintenance would be perhaps in what? Minimum things. But if you start to create a huge concrete structure with materials from here and there and designer kitchen and designer fittings, as soon as one of them breaks, you cannot replace it unless you have to fly it in from wherever you got it, and you may not find it. The cost is huge. So adapting to what's available in the country would actually serve you in the long term and serve your person bank account. It'll also help the society to develop. Yes, standards are missing. People don't apply them. The thing is, it's a tug of war here between supply and demand, the client and what they want, or the user or the owner of the home, and what's available in the market and what's not. If I was to insist on a certain, let's say, quality for what I have at home, and if in the country there's somebody who can give me something close to it, I would focus on helping them get to that standard and moving on. But this is not just the work of the user or the client, it's also something to do with the local regulations and how that can happen. But yes, this is a problem in Sudan right now. You buy the things from Turkey and from China, you bring them in, the sink breaks, you can't you can't, the tap malfunctions, you can't fit the tap in the sink because the sink is a certain design that doesn't exist in the country. You start compromising and it becomes ugly very, very quickly. Yes, that is a big problem, in my opinion.